use case, and this was a joint solution with our friends at Thales. We work with a number of medical device manufacturers, and what's interesting in a lot of these, it's about, a lot of them are looking to establish a similar approach along the NIST framework or along the 5 tenets that we mentioned earlier across their product lines. And so, once you've solved things like secure firmware or device identity in one line, it makes a lot of sense to reuse those components as you go from unit to unit. But we have a medical device company that was manufacturing pacemakers, and they did worry also about secure firmware updates, making sure that you can update firmware, and also sign that firmware with keys that are very carefully protected in HSMs such as Thales, and in this case they were Thales, protecting those private keys and ensuring that only legitimate firmware could ever be signed by those keys and be updated and put into the systems. The other piece is, these devices need to be able to authenticate, and so typically, obviously pacemakers don't communicate over the internet, but typically through something like a Bluetooth low energy connection or something like that can connect to an app on a user's phone. You want to design a system such that you're not placing any security value in the phone or in Bluetooth. There was actually just an article came out this morning on a potential compromise to Bluetooth. And designers know that, right? If you don't want to rely on those sorts of pieces, right? So if you can get end-to-end cryptography between the device and the back-end system, so essentially if the network, Bluetooth connection to a phone connection on the internet to the back-end system, through a public cloud or so forth, to be able to have the scalability to handle that, it is very preferable to have complete end-to-end encryption between the actual medical device, in this case pacemaker, and the back-end system, so that regardless of whether the phone is jailbroken or there's a Bluetooth hack or so forth, that the data that's in transmission in both directions remains secure. And that's exactly what we were able to set up for this customer, again with our friends at Thales. And we essentially, it allows for a part of the system includes a key, a public key that actually is a part of that firmware update that goes into the pacemaker. The pacemaker can then encrypt that data with that public key, and of course at that point, just through public key cryptography, the only thing that can decrypt that data, as long as the cryptography and keys are secure and updatable, is the corresponding private key back in it. And in this case, that private key is sitting back in the customer's data center, in the medical device manufacturer's data center, in a Thales HSM. And so effectively, you've got an encrypted tunnel that literally goes from the patient's chest all the way through to the back-end system, and, to ensure that the data cannot be compromised or retrieved in transit in any way. And a very powerful use case, and something that certainly adds a much higher level of security to the system.